I have no problem with doing some yard work, cutting your grass, pressure washing to make sure that this product is the best possible. If it's an elderly lady, you're going to get all my help. Right. Even if it's a younger lady.
What if it's a podcast host, for example?
I got you, Justin. I will help you do whatever you need.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Sweet Home Podcast. My name is Justin Branscombe, a local loan officer right here in Huntsville, Alabama. Joining me today is Nick Stone, one of the most excellence-driven people I have ever met. Nick?
Absolutely.
Introduce yourself.
Thank you, Justin. Well, I'm Nick Stone with Stone Legacy Realty at RE/MAX Unlimited. Just some of my background, what I've been doing over the years. Grew up in Huntsville, born and raised, from a little kid, so I know the town forwards and backwards, So grew up in Gurley, graduated from Madison County High School, and, C student. Loved it. A 2.9 GPA.
Not to sound like old people, but how's the town changed since then?
Oh, well, Gurley has turned into probably a huge spot where a lot of people want to live because of the mountain views. We really didn't know how good we had it when we were kids. Yeah. Playing in the mountains and playing in the creeks, we was just like, this is normal, this is beautiful. But now, driving the streets out there now, as much as I don't want to see it, but it is beautiful to see, $500,000 houses kind of at the cusp of the mountain and just the views. I get it. I do. But all that land got sold up pretty quick. And $1 million houses, $500,000 houses, D.R. Horton, DSLD, Davidson, all those guys are out there now building. And I would be too. It's beautiful out there.
Well, and it gets you close enough to the city to be far enough away from the city.
Oh,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean? So that's a pretty good location.
You're on both sides. You can go to Gurley within, I'd say, 10 minutes of where I grew up, which would have been off of McMullen Road, or you can head over to Hampton Cove within another 10 minutes. And then go up, for my post or governors that way. It's a great location.
How long have you been doing real estate?
So I've been going on real estate. This will be going on my 5th year coming up in real estate, and it's been fantastic. Kind of circling back where I came from, growing up in Gurley, graduating from Madison County High School. Straight out of high school, my first job was flipping burgers at McDonald's. Yeah. Proud of that.
Good start.
Yeah, I know, right? Flipping burgers at McDonald's, and then transferred over to a shoe salesman at Journeys, and then had a bunch of odd-end jobs in construction, running a heavy equipment sometimes, just trying to figure out my way. And then I became a butcher. I'd done that for about 4 years down at Star Market. Shouts out to Star Market, some of the best meat on earth, obviously. If you don't get your steaks, go down there and get it for sure.
Definitely.
Darden Heritage. So, I stayed down there at Star Market for about 4 to 5 years. I met my beautiful wife, Jessica, down there. Of course, we made googly eyes at each other across the way.
Over steaks?
Over steaks. The meat was where it's at. Okay, so we met each other through there and locked eyes, and, the rest is history. So after that, I had another opportunity to come up from that place to join FedEx. And then one of my great mentors and old bosses was a great guy, still a great guy, Kerry Griffith. His nickname was Bubba, of course. Had the whole routes. I ran routes in Coleman, Huntsville, Madison, Hazel Green, all over Madison County, running routes and delivering boxes. I was that guy.
Yeah, so you know the city pretty well then, for sure.
Exactly. Forwards and backwards the city, all the streets and stuff. And even Coleman. I know Coleman very well. A lot of nice people out there. I would move there in a heartbeat. There's fantastic people out there. But staying in the FedEx business for a while, and then I just started every single day. I had listened to every song that ever made. Yeah. Okay, so then I was like, why don't we start listening to something that's going to expand my mind, my capabilities here? So I started diving into self-help stuff. One of the best mentors that I had heard and listened to for years that really got me to go into entrepreneurship was Earl Nightingale, and a lot of his wisdom, And so The Strangest Secret, of course, is one of his best ones. We become what we think about. And so I started thinking about entrepreneurship, and I started a gun business. I was like, I love guns.
Yeah.
And so I was like, let's start customizing weapons. Let's hit the market with that niche. And I really fell in love with it. It was called Stone Tactical Precision. People fell in love with it. It's called Cerakote. So I'd take anybody's weapon, I'd break it down fully. And I didn't know nothing about breaking them down.
Wow.
So I learned everything. I learned how to become a gunsmith on YouTube. Straight up, believe that or not. So you can learn anything these days.
Oh, yeah.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. So
faster than college.
Exactly. So I was really good at that. I had a blast doing that, but I felt like I needed a backup plan.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start this business, and I'm going to go get my real estate license in the meantime.
Well, just not to derail you, what made you feel the backup? The government interference?
No, my mother-in-law, Sheila Swain, wouldn't get off my back about it.
A local legend.
Love her. Yeah, she was like, you need to get your real estate license. And so I was at my first gun show. And so what happened was I had made that decision to do my real estate license.
Yeah.
I would go to FedEx. I would get off of work. I would go to Sidney Singh's real estate school at 5 o'clock. After I'd run 140 stops, exhausted, I'd go to real estate school. I'd stay there from 5 o'clock in the evening to 9 o'clock at night. I'd done that for 6 weeks. And then I just had the notion like, I'm just going to take off for 6 months before I even take my test.
Well, when you listen to a bunch of mentors, the first thing they tell you is you can't do anything halfway. You have to commit, be serious, take it seriously.
100%.
Jump in.
100%. So when I kind of took off, I went back to, of course, doing my guns, and it blew up. And then I done my first gun show down at the VBC. And so this is where things started transitioning. I was at the booth I was at, and we were selling our products and stuff like that. And Dave and Sheila came through there. And then Sheila brought RE/MAX's top producer of that year, and really pretty much every year I look up to her, Lucy Bouchard. She's an excellent person. And so Sheila came up to my booth with Lucy, and she said, I want to introduce you to RE/MAX's top producer. This is Lucy. And I shook her hand, and we talked, and then she was like, you need to get in real estate.
Yeah.
And then Sheila was like, I told you. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. 6 months had already went by. So I said, you know what? Next weekend, I went to the cram course. I looked it up. I was like, are they doing cram course? I found out that they was doing cram course the exact weekend. I went back to cram course, took the little, Friday, Saturday, Sunday cram course after 6 months. Following week, I took the exit exam, passed that. The following week, I took the state exam. I prayed in the parking lot, and God answered my prayers. I made a 70 on the exam. I walked out of there. I was just as happy as could be. Of course, we celebrated that night. But so that's how I got into real estate and where I came from.
Did you feel when you started that it just really clicked? I mean, did it make sense at the time?
For me, it did.
Yeah.
For me, it did. I feel like I've got a gift of, I don't like to call it salesman, but communication.
Yeah.
Communication is key. If I could go back and extract any and everything and only learn one thing, it would be communication.
Right.
Because through all comes through communication, the gift of that. So I was good at communicating and talking and listening to people. And so when I first got into the business, it was March of 2020. Okay. COVID just hit.
What a great time to start.
I know. COVID just hit. So when COVID hit, there was a lot of realtors that got scared at first. They just stopped doing open houses.
Yep.
And I was really banking my business on open houses and stuff like that. So Dave Swain and Sheila taught me a lot, right out the gate, and to really get after it. So I would sit, and they would be gone. I'd be in the office. I'd put in that work of making my sphere of influences, really looking on the market of for sale by owners. So I'd get on forsalebyowners.com, and I would make some phone calls.
Yeah.
And, wherever that went, I would, get shut down half the time, but I didn't stop. And so really, I remember setting my first appointment, and it was a lady off of Whitesburg Drive over there, had a beautiful home. Me and Dave Swain went over there. I set the appointment to talk to her about her house, and then we went over there. And by the time we left, I did not expect to get that listing at all.
Sure.
But when we left, and Dave Swain I promise you to tell you this story, he could probably tell it better than I can. She came running out in the street She said, I want to sign right now. I want you to list
Wow.
this house and sell this. So that was the beginning of it. And it just exploded from there. Exploded.
Yeah. So when you do those listing presentations for someone who's originally going to go for sale by owner, are they prepared for what's actually involved in selling their house? Have you seen any of that?
They don't, in my opinion, understand the full grasp of what it takes to, from start to finish, sell the home.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not just sticking the price on it online and waiting.
It's not. It's not. The due diligence of an entire process is it's extended. I mean, these people, if they're just putting it on the market thinking that, somebody's going to come along and buy it, and I'm not saying that you can't do it. Of course you can. But if you're not knowledgeable in that field, a lot of things can happen that's not going to be in your favor. You're going to be taken advantage of.
Yep.
There could be some major problems.
And a lot of time, the other side, the buyers, they've got someone representing them who's skilled in negotiations, who knows what to look for, who can find all those problems. And then on the sell side, they're mostly on their own. There's no one in their corner.
Right. And it's scary if you're a buyer and don't have an agent to represent you.
Yes.
Big time. You're not being fed the right things that you need to be doing in this process to protect you. As you know, we live in a buyer beware state. Okay. So they don't have to disclose these things that are wrong with the house. They can say, hey, it is what it is. And you go in there without representation, advising you to get an inspection. And then all of a sudden, you buy a house that has foundation issues, termites, or a lot worse than that,
Right. Well, and during the COVID period, a lot of people were buying houses and just skipping all that. Some of them were buying houses sight unseen because the market was just melting, so hot.
I was in that process.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, not me personally, but so when I first came into the biz in 2020, I remember Dave looking at me and he said, congratulations, because this is going to be insane.
Yeah.
Insane right now. And he was like, the art of negotiating, the art of the process of normal deals is out the window.
Right.
Like there was nothing normal about that. Nothing normal. So, I felt the pain for our buyers though, because I was a buyer agent predominantly. I had a few listings, but the pain of it was watching, these first time home buyers get just rammed with going $10,000, $20,000 over appraisal.
Incredible offers.
Waiving
incredible
appraisal.
Offers that weren't.
I seen the highest I seen was up to $80,000 over.
Wow. Wow.
And that's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane. So you see these prices that were unbelievable, and then you're starting to waive appraisals. You're waiving inspections, and then they're getting to this house. Yes, they're getting their house, but they're not thinking about the future. They're not thinking about the market shifting. They're not thinking about when they didn't have that inspection, there's problems. So what I would advise my buyers to do was, let's have inspections for informational purposes only. Okay. Sure. But then we would throw in some exceptions, contingencies like, hey, if it's got foundation issues, we're out. But it got to where they wouldn't even accept that too because they had 10 offers.
Well, and from the seller's point of view, when they've got 10 offers and one of them wants repairs and none of the rest do,
I mean, it works both ways. Now, hey, the tables have flipped.
Yeah.
I can sit here and talk for hours about how I'm representing sellers, and the average days on market's anywhere from 20 to 40 plus days right now. But what I am seeing is even though those days on market have gone up, for the most part, they're still getting close to that asking price.
Yeah.
They're paying closing cost.
So the market's kind of where it should be, really.
I would say we're in a more healthier market, but it could be better with interest rates.
Yeah. That's
you as in the lending,
Oh, yeah. The number of people qualified because of the interest rate is just at least halved, in my opinion.
It is.
So it makes it tough to get people in houses. Unfortunately, people still need them. So some people will be stuck in that temporarily, but rates change. So
correct. Yeah, and that's the thing, though.
Yeah.
But rates change. So people's like, I'm going to wait till the rate drops.
Yeah.
Well, if you can afford to buy a house right now, then get in a house.
Yes.
I know there's an influx of apartments that have flooded Huntsville, Alabama. And if Tommy Battle is listening to this, please put a halt to the influx of apartment complexes coming into Huntsville, Alabama. We don't need no more apartment complexes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about owning a home. Okay, we don't want a surrounding of 9 million apartment complexes in Huntsville, Alabama. We want houses. We want people to own their homes, the appreciation of Alabama raising up, and not an influx of apartment complexes that cannot be fulfilled. Okay, if they are at 30% occupancy and then we have to lower the price, then you know what I'm saying?
Well, and houses are better for the city anyway.
Correct.
I mean, they're better for infrastructure,
Correct.
taxes, everything.
Right. I would rather see a neighborhood than another apartment complex.
I think most people would too. I've had to guess.
I agree. So, you know.
Well, the way they're building stuff around here, though, it's a lot of that's due to just the transient nature with the base here and NASA. There are a lot of people moving in and out of Huntsville at all times, and that keeps the market here probably artificially hotter than it would somewhere. I say normal, but this is normal for us. But when they're talking about bringing in like 4,500 jobs for the FBI, there are only so many houses.
Yeah.
Only so many houses, only so many apartments.
I agree.
And some of these people are going to be here, hopefully long term, that will end up in an apartment they don't want to be in an apartment just because what is available and what they can afford is not necessarily what they want.
Correct. Yeah, correct. So it's not necessarily what they want, but they should have the opportunity to be able to afford to buy a house.
Absolutely.
You know, whether the government's paying for it or not. We live in a military town, Huntsville, Alabama, the Redstone Arsenal. You got a lot of FBI, NASA, Army, just a military town in general.
Sure.
You know, so and you know, transitioning over to NAR settlement and those types of things. There's a lot of reasons why it needs to be a healthy market for those people.
How do you think, I don't know how much of this we can talk about, so we'll just preface it with that. How much do you think the NAR settlement will affect the bottom dollar on a house price? Because people are expecting, I mean, currently when they're talking about 6% to agents, those have been factored into comps for a long time.
Right.
People are expecting that to come down and affect the price of houses. Do you think that would be the case?
I don't think so. And I think professionals in the business are going to be able to explain to people who want to sell their home why you want to pay the buyer agents, okay? And we can start by this. Living in a military town, the regulations on someone who is acquiring a VA loan, you will know this. I'm glad I have a lender sitting here to confirm this. Yep. Regulations on someone buying a house through a VA loan cannot compensate 3% to their buyer's agent.
Yeah, currently.
Okay? Correct. So when you, as a seller, say, I'm only going to pay the listing side 3%, and we're going to make the buyers pay their own commission.
Right.
Well, here's what happens is that loan cannot compensate, for the VA loan cannot compensate the buyer agencies. Last year alone, my business at Stone Legacy Realty, we done 30% VA. Okay.
Yeah.
So automatically you're going to cut out 30% of the deals. All right. On top of that, you got first-time home buyers that already have to either, if they're going conventional, FHA, now let's don't even talk about VA, conventional FHA or even USDA. So conventional, they have to put 5% down. If they're first-time home buyers, they're going to have to put 3% down. If it's FHA, they're going to have to put 3.5% down, plus closing costs. Average closing costs, what, 6 to 10?
Yep.
You know? Okay, so they got to put 3.5% down or 5, plus pay closing costs, plus pay the 3% on top of that.
Right.
Okay, so, you know, when the listing side and a professional is explaining to the seller of that home, hey, the ultimate goal is to sell your home. We want to sell your home. We want to bring a buyer to your home, and we want to compensate the buyer's agency for doing their due diligence.
For bringing the customer.
There's a whole misconception out here of that realtors are just sitting there making bank and doing nothing.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I wake up unemployed every single day. There may be a month or two, maybe more sometimes, if I don't get a check at all. And when I do get my commission check, I still got to split it with a man. I still got to buy groceries for my family. I still got to put something back for retirement. I still have to do all these things. I'm not floating over here in a cache of money that like all of this comes without any working for.
And you haven't even mentioned the cost involved in selling a house, because a lot of that comes out of your pocket, you know, for advertising,
advertisements, professional pictures, and my time. Okay?
Correct.
Just because I'm putting in work and nobody's paying me doesn't mean that my time isn't valuable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that house doesn't sell, I've lost money. Okay? Which is rarely the case. But at Stone Legacy Realty, we go above and beyond. When we list a house, I can go to any one of my listings and have them come sit at this table today, and they're going to tell you Nick Stone and his crew went above and beyond. And I'm talking, if it's an elderly lady, she needs some help painting, let's say pressure washing, anything that I can do without a contractor's license to help them, yard work, I always do it because I want my listings to go on the market looking 110%. And honestly, I get bothered if I don't have offers within 1 week.
So you've done landscaping for people?
I've done landscaping. Man, I have laid sod.
Painted any fences?
Probably. I know I painted some inside of the house. I've done a little drywall work. I laid sod for a lady, and she had a few holes in her yard that her dogs had dug in the backyard. Well, you know, just full disclosure, her dogs, and she was there by herself. Her husband was out of town. Great guy, love him to death. But he couldn't be there to help. So I was like, man, I've got this. I'm going to help you get this thing in pristine condition because we get one chance to make a first impression.
Sure.
I want professional photos. I want the house to be squeaky clean, and I want the yard to be something on the Homes and Garden. You get one chance to make a first impression, and people buy houses online first before they ever step foot in them.
Yep.
So my pictures have to be on point. My description has to be on point. And when they step foot in that house, everything needs to be perfect. And it's up to me to tell them how to sell this home. Even if I've got to put some blood, sweat, and tears into it, we're going to do it.
Does staging play a big part in that? I know you guys have
We've
worked
done staging before. That's a lot of work.
It is, for sure.
That's a lot of work. But we will stage a house if we know that it's going to help it sell.
Yeah.
You know, me and my wife, we were in an Airbnb business. We had 3 Airbnbs, and so we had like $30,000+ worth of furniture. So when Tommy battled on them, I love you, Tommy. All right, but the city shut down the Airbnb game if you was not in a designated area where it was supposed to be. Okay, I guess in the counties it's fine, but if you're in the city, you had to be in a designated area where it was a commercial residential.
Did all of yours fall into that category?
Yeah. We just, you know, we lone wolfed it. We was like, we're gonna do what we want to do.
Wow.
Okay, and it's fine. Look, we made good, and we had 5-star ratings. People bragged about us when people were coming to Huntsville, and they would type in Airbnbs in Huntsville. Ours would be the first one to pop up, 100%. So this particular location where they were at in Huntsville was a very popular area, and they got shut down. We got cease and desist orders sent to the front doors, and so we had to shut them down. No hard feelings. It was an excellent time of our lives. We had some amazing times doing it. Just fun. We and my wife are in the service business. That's what we do as real estate agents.
Absolutely.
And so the Airbnb game was the same thing. We are there to serve you on an experience, just like in real estate. I'm here to serve you. 100%. I'm nothing but a serviceman. I'm not a salesman. I'm a serviceman.
Sure.
I'm here to serve. So when we was doing that entire game, that went really well. And then, of course, it got shut down. And we had over $30,000 worth of furniture.
Wow.
What do you do with furniture?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're in real estate now. You start a staging company.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So, but
cheaper than storage, probably.
Yeah, we done the gamut on what storage was costing us, and we was like, okay, we need to sell this furniture. So that's what we're doing right now. I didn't want to continue doing the staging thing because it is a lot, and a lot of houses don't need staging, but some do, you know. Right. And if they really want staging, we got friends that do it, and we'll just source that out. But on our plate, running a team and doing all the other things we do with our kids and family and stuff like that, it's a lot, and we was just not willing to put in that time.
So going back to the excellence that you guys bring to selling a house, you guys sound very involved in the process. Like, it's not just we get the listing and then you don't see us. I mean, if you're out there filling in holes in the yard, obviously they know you're on their side.
And they know we're there. And I don't do it for glory. I do it because I really care.
Yeah.
I genuinely care that if I'm going to put my name on this product, I want it to be the best. That's what I care about. I care that my name, Nick Stone, Stone Legacy Realty, is represented in the most professional manner possible, but also the most caring manner possible. Like this guy genuinely cared about my listing, my sale, my everything.
Well, at the end of the day, for real estate, it's not just houses. I mean, these are people. These are people's lives.
That's facts.
They've got things going on that some people do need more help than others. Some people don't need any help at all. But you got to be able to meet those people, understand their needs, and give them exactly what they need.
That's right. That's right.
Sometimes they don't even know what they need.
They don't. And as a professional, you got to drive the bus for them.
Absolutely.
Okay. And you drive the bus in a manner that's going to best serve them. Okay. In this business, as professionals, we need to make sure that we keep our clients' interest in the forefront of our minds. I listen. What do they need?
Right.
And how can I provide it?
Right.
Well, if they need this, but they can't afford that, and it's a little yard work, well, hey, I grew up in Gurley as a redneck. Doing yard work was
no
my
stranger
thing.
to that.
Ain't no thing. I have no problem with doing some yard work, cutting your grass, pressure washing, to make sure that this product is the best possible. If it's an elderly lady, you're going to get all my help. Right. Even if it's a younger lady.
What if it's a podcast host, for example?
I got you, Justin. I will help you do whatever you need.
So for the listing side of a transaction, there is definitely value. I mean, there's a reason to pay somebody to do those things versus putting that on the market and not paying anyone to do it. There's absolutely value there.
For sure.
I think part of what spurred the NAR settlement was a lot of sellers didn't understand why they were paying the other side. You know what I mean? Because they're paying their guy who they have a deal with, but just playing devil's advocate, some of those sellers might think, well, I don't have a deal with that guy. I don't know why I'm giving him part of the sale of my house.
Right.
You have any thoughts on that?
I just think it's poor communication on these things on behalf of either the agents or the, I would say, the public. Of course, miscommunication leads to misunderstanding. Okay, so if you're not communicating why there's the brokerage fee is what it is, and 6% is not set in stone. Right. I've taken 5%, I've taken 7%, I've taken 4%. Okay, so there's never been a set standard of 6%.
Sure.
When I talk to my listings, I tell them for our services, our recommended brokerage fee is 6%. They can say, nope, not paying that, or hey, I'm going to do 4%, or hey, it's all negotiable. It always has been negotiable.
Absolutely.
Okay. But when I tell them that our recommended brokerage fee is 6%, I'm going to show them exactly why and what they're paying for. I have a seller's guide, what we do from start to finish, and it's about 45 pages long, and it tells you what we do to get your home sold.
Yeah.
And I mean in great detail.
So in some situations, just the mathematical reality of the house may not allow them to pay that much, or else they're going to.
And that's the fact. So I've got listings coming up right now that are people that have been in foreclosure and came out of foreclosure, and their bottom dollar is not going to be. Their bottom dollar is what it is.
Yep.
So if that's their case, then I'm going to do the math. I'm going to work on what I can, and maybe I'll just charge them a flat fee to do what I have to do to help them, because I'm in the service business. If they need their home sold, nobody else is going to take this listing because they can't, quote, get their 6%. Well, then I'm going to help them, and we're going to negotiate a better price that's going to serve them and help me as well. Okay? Because if I'm helping, they're going to get served.
Yes. And that ultimately will move their house faster.
Correct.
But,
when I go in and I price houses, okay, so I told my team the other day we have meetings every Monday, sometimes Tuesdays as well. Big into training. RE/MAX is big into training.
Absolutely.
RE/MAX Unlimited, where I'm at. And so our agents are trained very well. And so I continue that with my own agents and my team. So when we train, I tell them we're in an analytical business, okay? You need to know your numbers. You need to know percentages. You need to know that. So on the average appreciation in Huntsville, okay, you're looking at on healthy years, you're looking at between 5 and 7% average on appreciation of houses in Huntsville. So you take the price of the house, you times it by 5%, and how many years, okay, and you're going to get that per year how much it should be appreciating. Okay, you look in the neighborhood on comparables to that house, square footage, rooms, all that, year-wise. You see what those houses have sold, apples to apples. Is the inside kind of the same? They got granted.
Yeah.
We do the comparisons, and then we set a price for the house conservatively. Of course, if I could sell your $200,000 house for $1 million, I would.
Absolutely.
Okay, I would.
Yeah.
But the name of the game is to get your house sold and get you onto your next dream,
right.
Whatever it is. Okay, so I price the houses to sell, and I price them to serve you. Okay, so I do my math, my agents do their math, and then the people that can't pay a full 6%, we go in there and we price it conservatively to where, hey, you're going to get your loan paid for because you're fixing to go into foreclosure, whatever. We're going to get you out of this, okay? You're going to pay a service fee of not a 6%, but maybe a smaller flat fee, okay? But the name is that I'm willing to work with you to
help them get out of the hole.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's a lot to this. You know what I mean?
Oh,
there's a lot to selling a house that people don't really realize. And for the NAR settlement, when people think that maybe now I don't have to pay a realtor,
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that sentiment. I don't know how common that sentiment will be, but you can already not pay a realtor. You can already list for sale by owner and not pay a dime to a realtor if that's what you ultimately wanted. But the difference is the service you get, what your money is going towards.
Yep.
And for the seller side, I think you've laid out a pretty good case for why your services are valuable.
I also got one more point to the seller side.
Go ahead.
Okay, so if you're planning not to pay a buyer agency, here's what's going to happen is if you got new construction within a radius of 5 miles from you, and genuinely everybody does in Huntsville, these new home builders are going to pay buyer agents. They're not only going to pay them, they're going to pay them possibly 4%. And they have in-house lending that can give those buyers a better interest rate. It's all relevant to what we're talking about here, okay? I think the NAR settlement thing was so blown out of proportion. Then it gets shotgunned through the fake news, and then they say 6% is over with, and the buyers are going to save money and all this and that. Look, the house is only worth what somebody's going to pay for it.
Well, and I think a lot of what gets overlooked is real estate is a imperfect market. I mean, you're actually not just selling your house in a vacuum. You're selling your house next to your neighbor who's selling a very similar house. And if yours is 20,000 more and theirs is not drastically different, why would they go with yours?
Correct.
So a lot of the prices of houses these days already have 6% figured into them because of past experiences, past sales, people trying to recover the price and move above the price. Plus, on top of that, you're talking about appreciation. So what people don't realize is that 6%, you've probably recovered that in your first year, if it appreciated at all.
Do the math. Okay, do the math. The old saying, numbers don't lie, okay? And I will credit John Steger from Woodland Homes. Great guy, love that guy to death. He's taught us and our team a tremendous amount about knowing your numbers, about doing it the old way, whip out the calculator on an actual mortgage calculator. John, never forget that, an awesome guy. When you're able to produce numbers in front of their face to explain what, when, where, and why, you separate yourself from the amateurs to the professionals. And that's what we do at Stone Legacy Realty, okay? My agents know the numbers. We study the numbers, and the numbers are this. If you 5 to 7% on an average year, back in 2020, 2021, it was 10 to 12%.
Yeah. Right.
10 to 12%. You paid for that brokerage fee in half a year. Okay, if you had a $500,000 house, you paid for that already. So I don't want people to get so twisted about, I'm only going to pay the listing agent 3%, I'm going to give the buyer, they're going to figure it out,
Right.
Well, what's going to happen is this. I think the NAR settlement thing was so misconstrued about, and first of all, who really banked off that? The attorneys.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, the attorneys.
They usually win every argument from
The
what
attorneys
I've seen.
was the one that banked off that, and then the news picked it up and just shotgunned all this fake news out there. And if you watch Jared James, Nick Bailey, they explain a lot of this stuff in grave detail about what truly it means.
Yep.
And I advise anybody to follow Jared James or Nick Bailey on some true insight to what has gone on. And the NAR president was on there as well, explaining everything. But if it's all about transparency, okay, then they just took away the one thing that was transparent. And what it was on our MLS, at the very bottom of our multi-listing system as agents on our Paragon, it will tell you what our listing side is willing to pay the buyer side. Now we're just taking that away.
Was that set in stone when that was listed? Was that still negotiable when that hit the MLS?
It's negotiable as the
deal is made.
As the listing agent talks to the seller, they negotiate what they want to pay in commission. Okay. Now then the agent has to decide whether they want to split that because they may be doing more work for that person or anything.
Absolutely.
They may split it half, that's standard, okay? If I get 6%, I'm not going to gyp the other side and give them 2 and take my 4. Matter of fact, if I get lower than 6%, most of the time, I've only taken it probably once, I give the other side 3% and I take 2% because I want that house to sell.
Yep.
Okay?
And that's another factor that people may not be considering is offering that 3%. It's almost like a builder's incentive, you know? This is money that goes towards a buyer to help raise the number of people qualified to afford this house.
Correct.
That's what it comes down to, is affording the house.
Correct.
And when you take that away from people who already are struggling to make, like you said, the down payment, the closing costs, the loan fees, and all that stuff, then you add 3% onto the house that they probably weren't prepared for.
Right.
And now that it can vary house by house, it might be different. I don't know. But,
correct.
But that lowers the pool of people who can afford the house. Just blatantly does. Not just the VA, just blatantly does.
And then it lowers your chances of actually selling your house.
Nick, I guess you've been here quite a while. You've seen Huntsville change quite a bit. You've seen the areas change. I mean, I'm sure this town's easily twice as big as when you started noticing. What do you think about it? Where do you see the town growing? What do you see it turning into?
Man, growing up in Gurley, watching just that little town explode on residentials, and I do feel that right there at 72 and Little Cove Road and Rock Cut right there, that little town, I feel that eventually it could be like a Providence area because the density of that population is growing up a lot on the outskirts right there and connecting to Hampton Cove. I feel that, the land over there, man, I seen it was an acre right off of Old Big Cove Road, and I think going for, it was $60,000 for an acre, but it was prime lots, and I think it may have been residential commercial, but, it's blown up that way out there, even as far as that way. But, it's amazing to see what has been brought to Huntsville. Tommy Battle, and I reference him a lot because I met this guy in person 12 years ago, shook his hand, and we actually talked about some stuff. And I didn't know till years later that he was an old commercial real estate guy. And so he really loves to bring the businesses, win the contracts and infrastructure to Huntsville so we can match the growth that's going on here. So to watch the big contracts like Amazon, Buffalo Rock, Facebook, Polaris, Mazda, Toyota, I mean, the list goes on, and it's going to continue to go on and on. Come to Huntsville, the big jobs, and then you see the population growth come in. It's incredible to see. I'm glad to have grown up here. I always tell people when, I meet them, if they're out-of-towners, that I'm proud to have grown up here. I'm proud to live here. I'm proud to call this my home. And I wouldn't want to sell real estate anywhere else in the United States. And I mean that anywhere in the United States, I would not want to sell real estate more than Huntsville, Alabama.
Even in just considering Alabama, Huntsville is a world apart from what's happening in the rest of the state. There's so much going on here. There's so much stuff moving here. Like, it's one of the fastest growing cities in the country.
I mean, we beat out the biggest city in Alabama. I think, man, I was in real estate school. I think it was Birmingham, of course, was always the biggest population of Alabama for a while. And so we beat them out a couple years ago, I think, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And then we became the number one city to move to. Was it 2020?
Right.
2021. I think we was number 2 in 2023. I'm not sure if it's back to number one again, but to even be in the top five, best cities to move to, the parameters for that are pay, cost of living, and, overall
affordability,
so our parameters on a city to move to really don't get no better unless you just love different, you want to be on the beach, you want to be in the mountains, that type of stuff.
You can't just build that anywhere.
No.
But outside of that, you got it all.
I love the mountains. My wife, she would go to the beach any hot second, take me to the mountains.
We're not far from the mountains or the beach.
No, exactly. We're not. You want to go to Gatlinburg?
Yep.
Just down the road.
And, they've got a lot of communities popping up on these mountains, like Green Mountain's expanding again. So,
have you seen what's happening on top of Chapman Mountain?
What's that?
So go up, if you're heading toward 72 East, going Chapman Mountain, look off to the right there. They got a beautiful church they just built on the edge of the mountain right there. And then they have, I'm guessing it's apartment complexes, Of course it would be. But they do look beautiful now. They're on the edge of the mountain right there. I don't know if that's close to Hawks Ridge. It's kind of at the very top up there. But, it does look uniform and it does look nice. I think if you're going to build some apartment complexes, at least they need to be different.
Unique. Right.
Don't give me the cookie cutter on every corner.
Yep.
Let's keep it unique. Let's keep it clean. Let's keep it nice. Let's keep it interesting.
Do you think they're going to build like more businesses up on those ridges or just housing? Is that going to be
that would be kind of cool to see some
go-to place?
To see some residential business or something like that. That little village vibe. The village vibe seems to be where it's at. If you take a Providence and you put it up on top of Chapman Mountain, that's a vibe.
You're seeing that more and more around Huntsville, especially. They want to build little communities, and some of them are apartments, some of them are housing, but they want a self-contained area that has your nice restaurants, it has your entertainment, it has places to go sit and talk, it has ponds and walking trails.
It's a clique.
Yeah, they want self-contained little bubbles.
Yeah,
in this giant, massive Huntsville.
People are proud of where they're from in Huntsville. Okay, to say you're from Huntsville is broad.
Yeah, which part?
Yeah, Madison. Even though Madison's Madison, but Madison was almost annexed into Huntsville years ago. They tried their dangest.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's again like New York. People don't tell you they're from New York City anymore. They say, I'm from Yonkers. I'm from Brooklyn.
Yeah, I'm from Manhattan.
It's all New York City.
Yeah, right. So you're exactly right. But I love that. They take pride. We got friends, David and Amy, they're great friends of ours, real estate agents, professionals, top-notch people, but they love Southside Huntsville.
Yeah.
They always talk about how they're from Southside and all this and that. And, then we always throw it in the fact, we've got Cliff Farms. We're from Madison.
Location.
Exactly.
That's what they preach.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of good ones here.
Exactly. I can tell you, transitioning into good times to buy.
Sure.
Okay. People want to say, wait. Well, there's a good thing that people were saying, I think back in, what was interest rates back in the 80s, early 80s? You're looking at
12, 15 range, somewhere
12,
like
15
that.
range that came down. Okay. Finally came down in the 90s. It was probably, 7%, early 90s, 8%. Most people would wait 10 years plus when the market has already moved and appreciation on the house has already increased, and stuff like that. The house that you could get for $60,000 back in the 90s is probably a $350 entry-level house now, probably.
Absolutely.
Like same house. It's $350 now.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a gym. Okay, so, take it how you want to take it. But and I've seen this back in 2020 and I didn't understand it. Most investors, I deal with investors as well, but if you're wanting to invest and make a good investment, and I seen this back in 2020 on DSLDs, okay? These guys were coming in. They knew that the appreciation was so much in a short period of time, within a year, 6 months, okay? They were buying brand new houses. Well, you take away the flip costs, you take away replacing the roof, you take away the HVAC, you take away all the probabilities.
Sure.
You get a 1-year home warranty through the builders, guaranteed. You got a 10-year manufacturer and HVAC warranty. You got a 30-year roof. None of them last 30 years, but you got 2015 for sure. Okay. You got all these probabilities of cost that don't exist no more.
Sure. It takes out all the X factor.
You put in a renter for a year or two. By the time that third phase is up, that same floor plan is up 100,000. I don't know. You know, they're selling them for X amount more.
Right.
2 to 3 years later. Okay. So your investment's already up on a brand new home. Brand new home. The higher priced home is going to, of course, increase in appreciation more. And there's a million ways to invest, but in my opinion, that seems to be, if you can get in on that first phase, hold the house, and watch what the same house is selling for by the third phase, you're up.
Well, and when you say there's many ways to invest, this is something I tell people before, because as a lender, first thing people say is, why are the interest rates so bad? Well, that's out of my control. Unfortunately, I'd give it to you for 1% if I could. Sorry, I just can't.
Correct.
But people traditionally in the last few years have looked at those interest rates as now's the time to invest. But what they don't realize is that's one of many ways to invest. That's not the only value in a house. I know investors who would buy a house, make $0 cash flow, and count on the appreciation, count on the equity buy down, and count on, for most of them put renters in there, count on a renter just making their payment. So sure, they're not getting a monthly $500 in their bank like you could when the interest rates were much lower, but they have that asset that's growing.
Correct.
And when they come in and build that Providence right next door, you know what I mean? Those areas, those trendy businesses, that can't really be factored in when all you're looking at is interest rate, payment, cash flow.
Right.
There are so many ways to make money in real estate if you're looking creatively.
Correct. Yeah. Back in 2020, there was an article written, and it was put out Inside of Real Estate or something like that, that the average price on the homes in Huntsville, Alabama by 2030 would be around $1 million. Okay. So, of course, we have seen the average price go from $225,000. I think last time I checked was around $367,000. Okay. Now that's an increase of over $100,000 in less than 4 years. Okay. So you just keep doing the math, up and another 4. I don't know if it'll be $1 million, but it's going to be kind of close.
It'll definitely hit a ceiling where the market fights back. But eventually it'll.
So, and that's the thing. If I could sum up the future in one word, it's going to be called expensive. Expensive. Unfortunately, it's going to be expensive.
That's just the nature of life, I guess. I said this before, but there are no old people who talk about how much more expensive it was when they were younger. You know what I mean?
No.
They all reminisce about how cheap things were, how great it all was.
A pack of bubble gum was a nickel, you know?
We'll be saying that, except we'll say $5.
Oh, yeah. No, it is $5. I went to buy some extra green gum the other day, and it's the little chewables. The thing was $5.39, and I did not buy it. I just did I need $5 worth of bubble gum that day? Prices rarely go down, and the market's always going to look like this. If it goes down, it's going to go down, but then it's going to come up, then it's going to go down, and then it's going to come up. Let me do my other hand. It's going to go down, it's going to come up, it's going to go down and come up.
Well, especially on houses, when they talk about the price of houses coming down, it never, I don't want to say never. No, back that out. No, I won't say never.
Yeah.
They rarely go down less than appreciation in the previous years. So if it went up 5% last year and it comes down this year, it might have went down 1%.
Right.
It's never going to beat that crest of where it was. So if you're talking year to year, and if you wait 1 year, it might come down and still be higher than where it was when you should have bought it.
Back in 2008, when we pretty much seen capitulation of the housing market, that was due to negligence of the banks.
Right.
Overlending.
Absolutely irresponsible.
Absolutely irresponsible. Overlending, giving money out without checking credentials. I remember I walked into a bank and, right when I had the job with Dennis Olive Homes, and I was 18, 19, something like that, 20. And so I was doing punch work, but I was also, I'm a man of many faces and a man of many jobs. And so one of my jobs at that home building place was I was a punch man, but I took drafting back in high school. So I was also doing architectural work on the computer for helping Alex, one of my great friends, draw houses for that company.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I went to Redstone to apply for a credit card, when I put that I was an architect on that application,
no more questions.
My credit line went from 1,000 to 6,000, like that.
Yeah,
like that. They was like, they said, "Well, what's your job description? We can get you a $1,000 credit card right now." And I was like, "I'm an architect," and they was like, "Oh, we just gave you an increase of $5,000, like that."
Right.
Well, what I do as a 20-year-old with a $6,000 credit card.
Sure.
Party like a rock star.
Yeah, why not? It's free money, right?
I don't even know if I ever paid that thing off, but please, Redstone, don't watch this.
Come after you. Yeah. Carrie and I, we bought our house about 2 months before the market crashed in 2008.
Really?
When we got our loan, it was a great interest rate. Great. I think it was 2.3, something like that. Absolutely stellar. Our payment was $720 on the house.
Nice.
I was bringing home $1,100 a month.
Nice. Wow.
That's how little they looked into if I was qualified for that house.
It was like,
or not.
yeah, he can make it.
Oh,
yeah.
he showed up for work today? Yeah, you can have a loan. Yeah.
$200 will last him on food a month.
Well, it definitely didn't, but
yeah, exactly.
But then we got sideways like everyone else shortly after that all fell out.
Man,
it took forever to recover from that. So when they jack up the interest rates, I know that they're concerned that could happen again. So they're trying to curb inflation artificially. And in my opinion, the more artificial things you do to the economy, the worse. But that is the aim of these high interest rates, is to stop something like that from happening again.
Obviously, it doesn't work.
Obviously.
Obviously. And we won't go down the rabbit hole of politics and what they do.
No.
But, obviously, higher interest rates to curb inflation is not working.
I haven't seen it.
And I think Economics 101, if you would just lower the fuel in this nation, and let us be self-sufficient on energy, we could lower the cost of a lot of stuff for our people in general. Drop the interest rates, lower the cost of fuel, lower the cost of groceries, be self-sufficient and not rely on other countries to provide for us.
Yeah.
That's about all I'll say about that, because you're going to get me on a rabbit hole.
No, that's fine. We don't want to do that. That's a whole nother show. We'll do that one tomorrow.
For sure. Yep.
Well, what else you got? You got anything else? Any other interesting things about town you'd like to talk about?
What are you seeing in lending world right now? What are you seeing on interest rates in general? As far as the future of this year, it's an election year. So what are you seeing in that?
So when they say interest rates come down in election year, that's wishful thinking. In the last 17 elections, they've come down 5 times. That's it. So that's obviously not the norm.
Mm-hmm. That last one was a good one, though.
They do stay the same. Yeah, I know. If that happens again, maybe they'll come down. They do stay close to the same through the election year. Sometimes they come down. It's hard to say. It's not a guarantee that they will.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that concerns me the most is when the Fed says we're going to give you 6 interest rate cuts in the next year, and then the next meeting they say it's going to be 3. The next meeting, it's not going to be as much as we were thinking, and so
I did not know they met again and said
they do a lot of backtracking. Yeah. So what they're saying they want to happen and what they're doing don't jive. So I tend to favor what they're doing versus what they're saying, because that's what's on the paper when you write the paper, unfortunately. So I think that will come down over the next 3 years. I think we're probably going to settle at maybe in the 6 range.
What are interest rates at today, April 11th, 2024?
Slightly above a 7 if you're talking just a
conventional
base average across the nation.
Okay.
Yeah. We can be lower than that pretty consistently just because it takes the national average. Part of the issue with looking at the average, though, is there's so many factors in a loan. I mean, I can say 7% is the average, and then this guy can get a
6.5 or something
absolutely.
like that.
So
when you buy down points, so when somebody comes in as a first-time home buyer or just a buyer in general that needs to, that wants to have the best interest rate possible, for me to educate my buyers, all right? So if we're going to look at something and they want to get the best interest rate possible, and I talk to them as a, real estate agent, talking to them from my perspective, but of course I'm not an expert in the field of lending, that I tell them, hey, yeah, right now you're looking at maybe 6.25 on an FHA, VA maybe 6.1. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it varies. It seems like Mondays are worse than Fridays.
They are.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't understand that they vary throughout the entire week. And so, but if I tell them, hey, we can put in we can get them to pay some of your closing costs. Yeah, let's say we got them to pay $10,000 toward your closing costs, and the closing cost was only $6,000.
Right.
So that leaves you $4,000 left over. Could they use that $4,000 to buy that interest rate down to its lowest possibility?
That is possible if the wording of the contract allows them to use it, not just closing costs, but that could be considered points. Sometimes the seller doesn't want to offer points, but they will pay, the title fee and the closing costs and the attorney fee. So that does vary by the contract. Are they allowed to? Absolutely allowed to.
Okay.
Some of the things to consider when you're talking to clients about interest rates in their future. Number one is how long are you going to be in the house? Because $4,000, let's say that's 1% of a house. So you could buy down 1% towards your rate, and it won't end up being 1% of the interest rate, maybe a quarter, something like that. That may change their monthly payment $50 or less. So now when you're looking at $4,000 and you're recovering that $50 a month over the life of your loan, you may not live in that house long enough to recover $4,000.
You're right.
So
You're right.
There's that aspect.
You're exactly
of it.
right. And a lender had told me about that not too long ago. You got to do your math on if you're going to buy the rate down, does it really pay off on if you're paying this money up front and then the life of the loan or however long you're going to stay there.
People don't stay in houses 30 years. It's very rare that someone anymore gets a 30-year mortgage and
tell my wife
closes it out.
Yeah, we could have stayed there 30 years, but she gets whatever she wants. I love her.
That happens.
That's right.
Yeah. So when you look at those things, and I hate to say it, but mathematically, sometimes it's not better to buy your rate down. I know it makes your payment a little lower, and that feels good every month, but you got to look at the whole picture, not the focus on your payment.
You're right.
But you have to really look at the details. You have to analyze someone's situation, what they can afford, why they can afford it. And honestly, that's hard to do. That's hard to do when someone just calls you and says, hey, I want to buy this house. Can you qualify me? Because every lender in the world's like, yeah, we can do that. Come on. But they haven't really looked into what's best for this person.
Right.
And given Carrie and I's history with getting in a house we blatantly could not afford, I will never do that to somebody. I could not. And, well, I legally cannot now, technically, give someone a $200 a month leeway. But that's stuff that a good lender and a good realtor should know. You should know whether or not your client can afford the house you're looking at.
Yep.
It's not, I don't want to say it's wasting your time, but it's kind of jerking them around to show them houses they can't afford. And that's not fair.
That's right. That's why it's so important as buyers to go ahead and do your numbers before you actually go out and start shopping.
Right.
First of all, you don't want to be let down. If you fall in love with a house that you can't afford, that's going to be a letdown.
Yeah.
So, do your math, do your due diligence with your lender to qualify, and then we go shopping for houses and stuff like that. I think a lot of realtors are like, want my people pre-approved before you start buying. Yeah. And that's smart because you do want them pre-approved. You don't want to go show blindly. And I have before, but we go show a couple houses and I ask them, hey, have you talked to a local lender yet? And they're either, yes, we're pre-approved or no, we haven't. I'm never not going to go show someone a house, whether they're pre-approved or not. I just think it's a smarter way to start, of course, by knowing your numbers. And then we start searching exactly what you can afford.
And it sets the expectations. You don't, unfortunately, people get into this at times where they weren't planning to buy or sell a house. Their job changed or they had to move here or something drastic happened in their family, whatever the case may be. So they're not really in tune with what they should have been doing before the day they have to do it.
Right.
So it's a crash course for a lot of people in the lending process, in the home buying process, in the offers and the negotiations and inspections. A lot of people are learning that as they go. So it really helps to have someone who can hold their hand through the whole process, explain in great detail. Like you said, communication is key.
It is.
Telling people
what
to expect, how to expect it, even the bad news. Unfortunately, there is bad news in some of these. And
You got to
getting
take the
people
good with the bad.
prepared is the best thing you can do for them.
You have to. And that's it.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Just giving them the full preparation from start to finish. And that, when we talk to our clients, that we tell them what to expect from start to finish.
Yes.
Like, one of the best things I tell my people are, has anybody thought of you enough to explain the entire process? And then they were like, no, or yes, or I've bought houses before, or no, this is my first time, or my last one was a bad experience. They really didn't explain stuff. So, as professionals, we want to sit down and make sure that we explain what it takes to buy a house from start to finish, the entire process, from looking to getting a loan to, writing the contract, negotiations, inspections, offers, or in the entire thing, and then all the inspections, appraisals, final walkthroughs, closings, the entire thing, repairs. There's so much that goes into buying a home and selling a home that why would you leave it to someone that doesn't have any experience in the field?
When you haven't done any real estate research, just say your time before you're a realtor, how many times did termites ever cross your mind?
0.
Yeah, exactly. But that's a real reality.
We live in the South. It's
a
real.
reality.
That is real.
If you're representing yourself,
well, I think
and you've never thought about termites before.
Did you not tell me a story before we started today about you guys' case?
Yes, yeah, we did the same thing. It was terrible. We didn't even know what questions to ask. And in Huntsville specifically, radon. How many people even know what radon is?
Radon.
How many people even know what that is?
They don't.
Exactly.
They don't. When at Remax Unlimited, of course, we have more paperwork. We have more procedures than most real estate companies, and we have more protection for our buyers because we understand that there are liabilities out there that we want to protect them and ourselves. Okay, so one of them is the general information for purchasers. Okay, so it's a 2-page guide that tells the purchasers what to look for when they're buying a home, as if they've never bought a home before.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what you want to do as when you're selling a product, you want to explain in great detail about the entire thing. Okay, so it tells you, hey, watch out for wire fraud. Look for sex offenders in the neighborhood. Check out radon. Make sure you get inspections.
Lead
Look
paint.
at the lead-based paint.
Yep.
If the house was built before 1978, you must have a lead-based paint inspection. You can waive that inspection, but you're advised to get one. If they haven't painted the house since 1978, you may want to check into that. Because there's risk involved. There's risk involved highly in all of it.
Even people who bought a home 10 years ago, a lot of stuff changes. A lot of legalities of buying a home change. So going over it as if they've never done it before every time, probably the only way to really prepare somebody.
That is the only way. You have to treat everybody the same in general, okay? And that's what we do at Stone Legacy Realty. We talk to everybody as if we grew up with them, as if they're our best friends, and we treat them like family. We make sure that we explain things thoroughly to them from start to finish, and we hold their hand through the entire process, okay? Whether they're seasoned or first-time home buyers, you're going to get the same me on every single deal. I don't skip steps. I don't, I go above and beyond. If you call my phone at 9:30 at night, you're going to get an answer. And we're going to talk about it until you feel comfortable.
Well, and that's the only way to really do it, because some people just can't work banker's hours. Just can't.
They can't.
So when they got questions at 11 o'clock at night because they just got off their late shift, and you're still their guy. You're still their guy.
Your clients are working all day. They're wanting to procure a dream, and therefore I need to work on their schedule. And that's going to include weekends. That's going to include nights. That's going to include early mornings. My peace and time is before anybody gets up in the morning. I've got to get up early. I take care of my mental health through, affirmations. I work out, and all that stuff is done before most people even get out of bed. So my personal stuff is over with. Okay. Then I can give myself to the world.
Well, if they're willing to work for their dream, so am I.
Exactly. That's right.
Exactly.
And we're here to take care of them. I think the part of service is what, some people miss sometimes is that we are not salesmen. We are servicemen.
Well, Carrie, for example, I don't think she's had a client yet that's not her friend still today.
That's good.
I mean, they're just, you get to know these people, you get invested in their lives, you get invested in their dreams, and it's hard to not be rooting for them.
I am going to a jambalaya party Saturday of one of the funniest, awesome clients I've ever had in my life from Tennessee. Awesome people. Worked the deal out. The home appraised for more than what we bought it for. We got some closing costs paid. He got 2 brand new HVACs put in. The seller was happy. He was happy. It couldn't have been a better deal. And this guy, he cracks me up all the time. We are tit for tat, and I love that guy. He's so funny. But you do make lifelong friends in this business. And that's what it's really about is, again, serving the people, building relationships, and having people's best interests in.
And you're building the communities. You're putting the people there that will be Huntsville. Those people will be Huntsville.
You always want to be a part of the solution, not the problem.
Absolutely.
You always want to be a part of the solution and not the problem. When people are doing the right things day in and day out, you are a part of the solution, okay? The problem is any misconception of realtors, okay? I'm not saying that all realtors are perfect, but what I'm saying is there's more good professional realtors out there than you think. There really are. There's great people in this business. And we put our clients first. We put their needs first over our needs, and we want to build their dreams. We want to get them the best deals. We want to be the best negotiators for them, and so on and so forth, Well,
you know what I've noticed, just going down that rabbit hole there? Reputation. Mm-hmm. People can't say what their own reputation is. Everyone else has to say what that person's reputation is. It's hard to fake that.
Right.
So when you get a good, reputable company, a good, reputable team, a good, reputable person representing you, unless you know a bunch of people who are out to get you, you got a good agent.
You know what? It's like a nickname growing up. You don't give yourself a nickname.
Yeah,
the nickname is awarded to you.
Unfortunately,
it can be in your favor, or it can't. It was funny growing up in school, as even of a country raising, they my nickname was Hollywood, but it was funny because I just like to look clean when I came. I always played in the dirt. I was roughneck out in the woods and playing around. But when it came time to presenting myself to my fellow peers, I like to stay clean, smell good, look good, feel good. Exactly. That's
it's weird how to place that is, or what?
I know, right? Some country hick from Gurley, So, but I love where I grew up. I'm not ashamed of anything and anywhere. I love my town. I love my city. I love my people. This is where I was born, and this is where I'll die. I won't move anywhere. Now, I'll visit Colorado. I want to see the Rockies. I want to go to the beach. I want to travel. I want to do all that. But this will always be home for me.
It's weird that the more you go out and see other things, the more you appreciate what you just left.
Absolutely.
We were the same way when we left Oklahoma, and we still love Oklahoma a lot. Huntsville's grown on us quite a bit. So
there's a reason why people influx here. Just
end up here for life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like to think we got the best people in the United States. I mean, we're friendly. We don't have a lot of craziness going on here. Everybody is about family and building businesses and building wealth here. There's so many opportunities in general. I think you're more inclined to have a once-in-a-life opportunity in Huntsville, Alabama, cross your path than the bigger cities.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the bigger cities are going to have 20 million people. We don't have that many people here, but I know for a fact you're going to run into some opportunities here that you wouldn't anywhere else.
And it still feels like a small town vibe.
It does.
For the most part.
It does. I think the entertainment business that has came here from the amphitheater, I think is awesome. All the big names that are coming in. The Probst Arena, downtown Huntsville looks amazing, what they've done to the park down there. Even the hotels, all the hotels that came in, they've done such a good job in Huntsville of keeping it beautiful.
And revitalizing the old.
Exactly.
Amazing revitalizations.
Exactly. If I had to give some advice, if this makes it out to the ears outside of Huntsville, Alabama, Huntsville is a fantastic place to move to.
Yeah.
If you want to raise a family, secure a well-paying job, and not be bombarded with cost that are unaffordable, Huntsville is a fantastic city to move in.
Yeah, for sure. Nick, appreciate you joining me here today. Anything to wrap up with? You got any shout outs, anything going on?
I just want to say thank you personally for letting me come on this podcast and express my thoughts. If anybody, again, is thinking about buying or selling real estate, Stone Legacy Realty at RE/MAX Unlimited would love the opportunity to earn your business and show you what we can do for you. And on the other hand, if anybody is thinking about moving to Huntsville, at any point, you will be making a right decision. Huntsville is a booming city from start to finish. I think our city council actually cares about the citizens in this city, in this county, and I think you will not regret it at all, whether you are investing or living long-term or anything. Huntsville is a fantastic place, and it is booming from start to finish. I can't wait to see where the future goes with this city. I'm proud to have been born and raised here, and proud to call myself a Huntsvillian for sure. Yeah,
you're definitely a good representation of them.
Thank you. RE/MAX Unlimited for life.
Appreciate your time. Thanks for listening to the Sweet Home Podcast. Join us on social media if you guys want to see more content like this and talk to more amazing people like Nick Stone here. Take care.
Thank you, guys.